In every corner of the globe, a martial artist is building their dream. Every drop of sweat, every thrilling victory, every agonizing defeat, every moment spent toiling in darkness, all in service of a dream. This year, at Polaris SQUADS, they will give it all for their team. North America, Europe, Asia, South America. Which continent has the best grapplers on Earth?
So people, for example, in this little town wouldn't believe that someone from here would actually go and represent the little town, the city, or the country in a big stage, being a professional. But it's like they say, it's impossible until someone does it. Growing up in Costa Rica was pretty wild, to be honest. My childhood was in the mountains, so it was challenging, but I enjoyed my times here. I love Costa Rica, to be honest. It's one of the most beautiful countries in the world. Coming here after, for example, traveling for 1 month, 2 months, feels just like home.
Julian Espinosa has a small inner circle that he credits with his success. But there was always one person cheering louder for him than anyone else, his grandmother. Having helped raise him, her passing affected Julian greatly, and he now uses that as fuel for his fire, his passion to succeed. At Polaris 31, the Costa Rican kid will be bringing that fire to Team North America.
I lost my grandma 2 weeks ago, and she basically raised me alongside my parents, but it's the process of life. Death for me is always been a difficult thing. It just helped me to know that she was one of my biggest fans ever, and now that she's gone, physically but not spiritually or in my mind or heart, it's just something that I use in my favor, knowing that she is there.
Ahí, Julian, lleva.
And I'm gonna try to do the best that I can in this life to make her proud. Listening to people all the time telling me I wasn't doing the right thing, just because society has a straight path, and it's like you finish high school, you go to college, then you get a job that is 9 to 5, then you go home with your family and you do the same thing again for 50 years. And that just didn't fit in my mind. My entire family, they will always be paying attention to what I needed. I told them, okay, I wanna do the jump to being professional, but I have to quit my job. I'm gonna stop or freeze my college career for a couple of years maybe, and you have to trust it. You have to trust the process, but I promise you that I'm gonna give you a result at the end. My inner circle is pretty small. I can count them with my hands, and all of them, they've been part of this process, and I'm so thankful for them, and they're always there for me for anything that I need. The biggest help that they give me is feeling that they trust me and that they have this belief that I can do bigger things than what I actually think that I can do.
Despite the support from his friends and family, convincing people that he could make it as a professional grappler was never easy. Winning the European Championships and his appearances on Polaris were turning points. And Julian hopes that his efforts will inspire the next generation of grapplers from his home country and beyond. There is no victory without sacrifice, a lesson Owen Jones has learned many painful times over the years. His father, too, sacrificed much and gladly for his son to have a chance at success. And this is one of the reasons why you'll never see Owen give up. There is a debt to pay and work to do.
My dad was generally one of the main reasons I still do this and I do a lot of things, right? Because we weren't the most fortunate growing up, and he would like sacrifice a lot of things, you know, taking out loans or going into debt to basically get me to Worlds, to get me to do camps. And like, there were times where, there was almost a time where I thought I wasn't gonna do jiu-jitsu as well, and he basically convinced me to go back to doing it, right?
Sleeping in the gym for almost a year, working as a laborer, a long losing streak at purple belt, but his unshakable self-belief.
Now what? Leveling, leveling.
And the support of his father brought him through.
A bunch of things went wrong with his job, and basically he had to, like, he got resigned, right? So that means he loses the flat. And obviously in London, it's so hard to afford rent in places. He couldn't afford to stay in London anymore, so he had to move back with his dad in Wales, because all of my family lives in Wales. I had the dilemma of like, do I move back to Wales with him? So basically my dad even said, it's like, it's up to you. If you move to Wales, realistically, you're not gonna make it that far in jiu-jitsu, right? It's like, obviously there is jiu-jitsu there, but it's not high enough level, no one's gonna be pushing me. It's not the same network, right, as it is in London. You know, London we have Owen, Taylor, there's like lots of people who are training actively, right? Elliot and David offered me the room in Apex, this little cupboard in the back. Waking up and like opening the door, and like, or like I wake up at 7 o'clock and there's a class on outside, it's like I can't go out. If I open my door all the way and there's a class going on, everyone can see basically my entire life in a room, right? It was not that good, right? There was a lot of mental barriers I had to overcome. Like, it was quite tough at times. Because I was also the same time doing terrible in competition at purple, where I'm losing all the time. I'm like, what is going on, you know? And then obviously things started taking a turn for the better after trials, right?
With a breakout performance at ADCC trials and a victory over Polaris legend Ash Williams, Owen's future was clear, but not easy.
If you win trials, it can change your life, right? Even Jack C was telling me this, it's like people win trials and it's just, you get that massive jump.
Yo, take off your shoes, crib brand new. Yeah, I'm about to go in like a damn fool. I'm leaving your mans, them in shambles, you know, light up the wax.
Basically at Get Out, it was like, okay, if I win trials, I put in a good performance, I go to ADCC, I'm gonna get my own flat, I'm gonna be out of this mess, it's gonna be done, right? So it's like, I'd wake up in the morning with that, like, that drive, that motivation to be like, oh, bro, I don't wanna be here anymore, man, F this, it's like, get me out of this place. This was definitely a driving factor for trials, right? Obviously, going to ADCC, I feel like those are the type of venues and like events where I perform quite well. Stuff like Polaris, Who's Number One. ADCC is obviously one of the biggest, you know? Being there in front of the crowd and like it being almost like a high pressure situation, this is where I feel like I thrive, you know? That's where you get the real outcomes. I feel like it's when you show how good your jiu-jitsu is, you know? Because if you can't show it on the highest level, then what's the point? That was a big thing for me as well, proving to other people that I can beat the best guys in the world.
The story for Owen Jones is just beginning. Now, one of the most recognizable professional grapplers on earth. There was a time, even the idea of being an amateur grappler was looking unlikely for PJ Barch.
I was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, or like close by. So I spent a lot of time there growing up and stuff, but I mainly was raised in this like small kind of beach town in rural Delaware. You know, if you were a big dreamer, it wasn't the place to be per se. Hard to fit in, I think, for me. There's not a lot of outsiders that live there, you know what I mean? You know, I wasn't wealthy enough for the wealthy white kids. I wasn't redneck enough for the redneck kids.
With a less than stellar wrestling record throughout middle and high school, PJ began hanging with the wrong crowd and was getting a reputation as a troubled individual.
I wrestled growing up, my dad wrestled growing up. Man, I mean, I think I hit puberty pretty late. I wasn't very strong. I was pretty technical and I could move really well on the mat, but I wasn't fast, I wasn't strong. I pretty much just lost, you know, like all through middle school. But I mean, by the end of high school, I was getting pretty into drugs and I was super caught up with this and I was doing a lot of the wrong stuff. And then it transferred into college, and by like my sophomore year, I was already kind of quit wrestling and was flunking off the team and flunking out of school and everything like that. And you know, other than wrestling, the only thing I ever did really was surf that I really loved.
His mother, seeking a fresh start for her son, offered him a plane ticket to any college in the country. A longtime fan of surf culture, PJ chose the fighting city of Hilo, Hawaii, where, instead of study, he found MMA.
I moved to Hilo, which was like kind of a weird part of Hawaii, and it wasn't like the white beaches and the surfing as much. I still surfed every day. It's kind of, I didn't want anything to do with wrestling at that point anymore, and I was finally getting good grades and doing a lot better in life too. Kind of Hawaii helped to heal a lot of the things that I was going through and things like that. And then, I had these buddies that were fighting MMA, and they were like the kids that I was hanging out with a lot in college. And I thought MMA was kind of silly at the time. I was like a wrestling purist. And Hawaii kind of changed that for me, like their warrior spirit and BJ Penn and all these guys that were like learning about pride and watching everybody love the UFC and things like that was really cool. And so I started to get into it a little bit. I get choked out a bunch.
At the gym of UFC legend BJ Penn, PJ put his wrestling base to good use and went undefeated in MMA.
So and my experience when Hawaii was tough. I had to really earn myself over there. Making it through that and becoming a part of that team, I felt like, man, this is it. This is what I felt like in wrestling. Wrestling gave me so much value growing up and kept me on the right path so many times.
After graduation, PJ moved to San Diego. And while he had nowhere to sleep except his car, he had somewhere to train. The newly opened 10th Planet San Diego.
Yeah, when I moved to San Diego, they had just opened the 10th Planet San Diego here, literally the same day I arrived here. I arrived here with no money, no plan. I drove from the East Coast from my parents' house. I had no place to live. I slept in my car.
The timing was perfect. And captain of Team North America has ridden the wave of professional grappling ever since.
I think moving there, finding myself, finding MMA, which led me to jiu-jitsu, which led me to San Diego, that's a big turning point, probably one of the most positive things I would say. I'm grateful for the struggles, I'm grateful for persevering through it, I think not everybody gets as lucky.
There is a certain freedom that comes with knowing you have given absolutely everything. And that is the mindset with which Taylor Pearman entered the most recent ADCC European trials.
Well, this is a great opportunity for me to just go full send and think, right, let's just go in 100%, let's see what we can do.
After a falling out with his previous gym, Taylor was training and teaching out of a freezing cold warehouse, trying to convince himself and others that his dream was still within reach.
Yeah, it was a tough situation for me, obviously, because I fell out with a friend at the time, which obviously that's hard enough. And then I left my job, which is obviously, again, really hard. I had a job and I didn't have a job anymore. Had a friend, didn't have a friend anymore. And it was just this massive change in my life, really. It was just my whole life just got flipped around. It just left me in a really, really tough spot. One of my students had mats, luckily, so we could put the mats in, but it was awful, man. It was freezing, so all the workers would be working in there, so the shut door would be open all day. The place didn't have anything, it didn't have showers, only had one toilet and stuff like that. It was just a bit I didn't feel like I could charge him a lot, so I just would charge him just enough to pay for the rent. Yeah, the people who stuck with me, who came there, were tough, man. They didn't care about the environment, they just wanted good training.
In these Spartan conditions, Taylor became hyper-focused on becoming the best grappler he possibly could. Cross-training wherever possible and taking his strength and conditioning to the next level.
When I was in that situation, I was like, right, I can't teach as much, can't earn money, so I don't have to focus on that. I can just focus on myself and just focus on becoming the best athlete I can become and see what happens, you know what I mean? So I kind of just tried to make the best out of the situation I was in, and that's how I overcame it. I just tried to turn it into something good. I really just tried to dive in and just, wherever I was lacking, I just tried to find what I needed. I felt more confident for this tournament than ever because it's just not that I had everything to lose, but I had everything kind of riding on it, and I just would put everything into that camp, into the whole lead up, It was a tough process, but yeah, again, it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
He arrived at the trials with an all or nothing attitude that ended up carrying him to absolute victory. The standout performance changed his life. instantly making him a household name and grappling and opening the doors to the opportunities he had been working for.
It's a cruel thing. It's like you can do everything right, but still not win and still not make it. It's not fair, and you need to be content with that. You need to be content with you could fail and you could never get that, but you have got to give 100%. Because if you don't try, you'll never get it.
12 athletes, 2 continents, 1 goal, victory. Europe versus North America kicks off the 2025 season of Polaris SQUADS.